iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz.
We did a virtual production of this play last summer for the Actors Fund. And I felt it was poetic, it was cinematic, it was impactful, it was timely, it was historical, it was refreshing, it was inspiring. And then when I talked to Adrienne, I was like, oh my God, this is an American treasure. She belongs on the mountain with Chekhov and Shaw and Tennessee Williams and August Wilson and Lorraine Hansberry. She belongs in that army. And when she told me she had always wished for a Broadway play since she was 15, because she's been writing all her life since she was 8. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be a part of that. And so now I'm a part of that. I'm a part of producing, directing her play in the newly named James Earl Jones Theater. So I've been also in the spirit of thinking about all those people who've come before me. So James Earl Jones and Adrienne Kennedy and Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee and my friend Harry Belafonte, who I've been spending a lot of time with, and Sidney Poitier, who I was lucky enough to be in the room with. All those people who made it possible for us to even have a career. The Lena Horne, yes, they named the theater after her. You know, we're all a part of that. So I'm excited to work on this play because of the brilliance of Adrienne Kennedy.
It was the fact that Adrienne Kennedy had not had a play on Broadway ever. And the journey that Suzanne Alexander takes, the journey she takes the audience on, and what happens to her, and the fact that a lot of what happens to her because of systemic racism that devastates her life in the way that it does. It feels like we're hurtling toward that again. Here we are, here in 2022, and this place takes place between 1992 and 1949, and the fact that we seem to be headed back in that direction, so it feels very relevant. It feels like it's necessary to kind of shine a big, bright, shining light on what happened in the past to understand that we are not that far from the past, and in fact, we're heading in the wrong direction. And so that's why it was important for me.
There's mystery, there's suspense, there's murder, obviously. But I think deeper than that, there's a revelation of racism and the complexities, the experience of a black woman on a predominantly white campus in the 1950s. And I think it's important to bear witness to that and be reminded of that and question ourselves in relation to that, especially as a white person. So I was drawn to all that, and then, I also knew that Audra McDonald and Kenny Leon were working on it. So I have a general rule that I never turn down the opportunity to be in proximity of greatness. And so it was an easy yes.
Still processing, but I'm so incredibly grateful. When you're a kid and you get the privilege to see Broadway shows. I turned to my mom when I was young and I was like, I want to be on that stage. And then as you get older, you're like, oh, I got to work for it. I'm still processing. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, I think the feeling for me is really divine in a way. I think kind of a similar way I'm still trying to process what's happening, but it feels purposeful. I think telling this story specifically, giving Audra her debut, telling her story, working with Audra, working with Kenny, working with Bryce, also doing the show at the James Earl Jones Theater. There's just so much history that's taken place. So I am super grateful for the opportunity.
I really felt like post Mr. George Floyd's murder, post the height of the crisis of the pandemic, where the whole world just sat down because we had to. And I think we began to listen and exist in a different kind of way that has nothing to do really with anything that we've done before. So what is this new message that we're going to give people? Because all the old revivals are answers to questions that happened in the past. What can we say about right now? What can give us inspiration, carry us forward, make us feel more at ease with being human? And so we have this murder mystery, Ohio State murder mystery, and there is a big murder but how did it happen, and how is everybody complicit in it? So, in terms of how we are in the world right now, how did what happened happen? How were we complicit in it? And how can we come together to go to another kind of place?
I think Adrienne does an incredible job captivating the experience of being a black woman. And I think as a black woman, as I read it the first time, I started to say to myself, wow, not only is this really good, but I see myself in here. And I can't say that I feel that way about every single play. So I think that's one of the most captivating things for me as a black woman.
I play Suzanne Alexander, who is she's a writer in her 50s that has been invited to come back to her alma mater, Ohio State, and talk about certain imagery in her stories and plays.
I played Professor Hampshire, who is a professor at Ohio State in the 1950s. His class on the Victorian novel and his lectures on Tess of the D'Urbervilles and King Arthur have a profound and meaningful impact on the main character when she was a student there.
So I play Iris Ann, and that is, in the play, Iris Ann calls her Sue, but Suzanne's best friend. And for me, Iris Ann is a character who goes through very similar experiences that Suzanne goes through, but in a different department at Ohio State. So you get to see two black women going through very similar experiences, but very different ways. And I think that is really important to watch and see that, okay, Suzanne isn't alone, but at the same time, she's not alone in the bad way, and she's not alone in the good way.
Yeah, and I played two characters. I played David Alexander, who is Suzanne, played by Audra McDonald, her husband in the story, and he represents the love and gives her the nurture and care that she deserves in the story. Whereas, the second character that I play, Val, is a total opposite person. He represents the community. He represents the mystery of the story, wanting to know why she's gone through so much trauma. He doesn't believe it, you know what I'm saying? So it is interesting to play both dynamics and both characters in this story.
Yeah, I played three wonderful characters. Miss Dawson, who is the dorm matron at Ohio State University in the residence that Suzanne lives in. Aunt Lou, who is her aunt, who is a bit of a rebel. She left Cleveland and went to New York to pursue singing at a time when Nat King Cole and Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan were popular. So she winds up as a music teacher. She also winds up as being a tremendous support to Suzanne in a time of intense crisis. And then there's Miss Tyler, who is a friend of Aunt Lou's. And when Suzanne has to move away to another place in Columbus, she goes to Miss Tyler, who has a great boarding house in Columbus. And then the black community in Columbus was very prosperous then. It was called Bronzeville. So three very, very different people, but three very, very important parts of Suzanne's memory.
There's definitely a different feeling walking into the new James Earl Jones, formerly the Court Theater, where I did Fences, Radio Golf, and Stick Fly. I did 3 productions there. But it's a completely different space, light, energy. And it feels important to kick this new theater off in the right way. So yeah, I feel a sense of responsibility. I also feel a spiritual connectedness to all those who have gone before me. So it feels special.
So Kenny and I did a musical together not too long ago, and we had a great experience. But I really wanted to work on a play with him because, he's just so known for taking great American plays and combining them with great American actors and giving Broadway audiences an incredible experience. And I wanted to be in the room to watch him, work with Audra, frankly. And that's been an education in and of itself, just to get to watch the two of them put their minds together in service of Adrienne's words and this play. It's been very special, and I'm super glad I said yes.
I mean, so far within the process, I've been a sponge. I've really been a sponge and really just been able to sit back and observe and learn from the great people that we have in the space and the people that we're working with, Bryce, Audra, Kenny. It's funny because, I told them, I'm like, in school, we were watching videos of Audra, and that was pretty much a part of the curriculum.
No, that's the
You know
curriculum.
what I'm saying? And now we're here working with these great iconic artists, and it really is surreal for us, But it is, like I said before, it's placement. I think it's purposeful. I think it's we're here for a reason to tell the story. So, again, super grateful.
Absolutely. Everything he said and more. I think as a black woman, like he said, it's the curriculum to watch Audra McDonald and to study her. So walking on the first day was surreal for me to get to meet her, work with her, and see her and work with her. And so I'm incredibly grateful. And to work with Kenny Leon, all of this is really surreal. And as honestly, Audra said before, a little kismet for me. So I'm very, 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 very excited to be in this place and to be working and to be giving Audrine Kennedy her Broadway debut, overdue, deserved, and at the James Earl Jones Theater, like you said.
Well, it's almost like coming full circle because I spent 14 years in Atlanta, and when I first met Kenny, he was a really young actor, and so I saw him move from there to the artistic director of Alliance Theater, to his own theater company, True Colors, on to the Broadway stage, and here we are, full circle, back again, together in the same place, only through theater. I can't think of anywhere else that this could happen.
He's one of the toughest directors I've ever worked with, and he's one of the most loving. And that sounds, like a paradox. How can you be both? He pushes me harder than just about anyone that I can think of. And he's obsessed with the work, and he pushes you hard, but because he knows you have it in you, but he pushes you with love. And so he's like, come on, let's go. And you're like, oh, I don't want to eat my broccoli today. And he's like, let's do it. Eat your broccoli. And he knows that on the other end, he has faith that there's going to be huge evolution, discovery, and we will all be better human beings and performers and creators tomorrow than we are today as a result of that hard work and that excavation and the pain that you have to go through. So that's why I love working with him.
These actors are perfect. We're only as good as our weakest person, and I don't have a weak person in the bunch. Bryce Pinkham is just extraordinary, and Liz Ann Mitchell is wonderful to work with every time, and I'm getting to know Abby and Mr., but they are all so giving, they're all so unselfish, and that's what it's going to take to deliver greatness with this play.
I think I would love for people to take away the importance of love, grace, care. This experience in this story, you pretty much get to dive into someone's personal life and the things that they've had to go through leading up to where they are now. So I think I would love for people to take away just a different insight, a different perspective on like being graceful and caring with people, and because you don't know people's story, you don't know where they come from, you don't know what they've dealt with. So I think that it'll just allow people to move in a different light, going forward after seeing this production.
I want them to know Audrine Kennedy's name. I want them to think about their own connections to the history of racism and their own college experience. I want that drill to stop, and I want them to feel everything is okay in the world because Audra McDonald's back on Broadway.
When the people leave the theater for this play, I want them to go and talk to someone that's different than they are, just to have 5 minutes with someone that looks different, sounds different, a different age, a different race, different gender. 5 minutes, quality time, real questions, real time. That's all. Thanks, love. Thank you.
iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz.